Don't come to Grandma's birthday, my mom said. I canceled all nursing home payments I'd funded for 4 years. Now Grandma lives with them in their small apartment, and it's too late to rebuild bridges. I was chillin' at my apartment, one of those modern joints with concrete countertops and floor-to-ceiling windows that costs way too much. But hey, that tech job salary had to go somewhere. My MacBook was open with some Netflix documentary I wasn't really watching when my iPhone lit up with Mom's face. Already I felt that knot in my stomach, you know? Like when you see a cop in your rear view while doing 5 over. Hey, Mom, I answered, trying to sound casual while grabbing my can of LaCroix. These calls never went well, but family's family, right? Hi, sweetie, she said in that tone, the one that means she's about to drop something on me but wants to pretend everything's totally fine. Just calling about Grandma's birthday this weekend. I took a sip and waited. There's always a but with these calls. The thing is, she paused dramatically. I think it would be better if you didn't come. The LaCroix suddenly tasted flat. 4 years of writing checks to Golden Sunset Nursing Home every month, basically the price of a BMW payment, and I'm getting uninvited to the birthday party I was planning to pay for? No cap. Why's that? I kept my voice even, though I was already feeling my blood pressure tick up like a Fitbit heart rate during a HIIT class. Mom cleared her throat. Well, you know how Grandma gets around your lifestyle choices? She'll be calmer without your weird views on life. My weird views? Being that I went vegan, quit my soul-sucking corporate job for a startup, and dated outside my race. The holy trinity of family disappointment, apparently. Got it, I replied, not wanting to give her the satisfaction of an argument. Hope it's a good one. After hanging up, I stared out at the city skyline. 4 years of payments, 4 years of visits when nobody else bothered. 4 years of being treated like the black sheep despite being the only one actually handling responsibilities. That night, I couldn't sleep. My Casper mattress that usually felt like sleeping on a cloud might as well have been made of Lego bricks. By 3 a.m., illuminated only by the glow of my phone, I made a decision that would change everything. Updated, yo, can't believe the response this is getting. Some of y'all asking if I felt guilty that night making such a big decision. Truth is, I was shaking while logging into my bank app. Have you ever been so disrespected by family that you finally reached your breaking point? What was your moment when you realized enough was enough? The next morning, I called the nursing home's billing department. The woman on the other end sounded bored until I told her what I wanted to do. You want to cancel all payments? Effective immediately? Her voice perked up with concern. Ms. Matthews has been with us for 4 years. Are you transferring her to another facility? No, I said, feeling oddly calm. I'm just no longer financially responsible for her care. There was a pause. You do understand that without these payments, she'll need to make other arrangements within 72 hours unless someone else takes financial responsibility? I understand completely, I replied, feeling like I was in some kind of out-of-body experience. Please make sure her family is notified immediately. After hanging up, I went for a run in my Nike Pegasus shoes, pounding the pavement harder than usual. Each step felt like I was running away from years of being the family ATM while simultaneously being treated like an embarrassment. My Apple Watch pinged constantly that afternoon. Mom, Dad, even my brother who I hadn't spoken to in months. I silenced them all and ordered Uber Eats, stress-eating tacos while binge-watching Succession on HBO Max. Nothing like watching a dysfunctional wealthy family to make your own drama seem almost normal. 3 days later, while I was in a Zoom meeting, my phone exploded with calls. I excused myself and finally picked up. What have you done? Mom's voice was so loud I had to hold the phone away from my ear. In the background, I could hear Dad arguing with someone. What's happening? She demanded, hysteria making her voice crack. I leaned back in my ergonomic office chair, suddenly feeling very calm. I'm guessing the nursing home called? They're saying we need to pick up Mom today or pay $7,800 immediately. We don't have that kind of money. What did you do? I took a deep breath. You decided family events are better without me, I said evenly. So I figured my money isn't needed there either. The silence on the other end was deafening before she exploded again. You can't do this. Where is she supposed to go? That sounds like a family problem, I replied. And apparently that family doesn't include me anymore. Dad got on the phone next, his voice alternating between anger and pleading. How could I do this to Grandma? Don't I know they can't afford it? Their apartment is too small. They both work full-time. This isn't fair. Fair. That word hit me like a Mack truck. Was it fair when you guys took her to Disney World last year and told me the wrong date so I wouldn't complicate things? Was it fair when you excluded me from Christmas because my ex was too different for family photos? Was it fair when I've been paying $7,800 a month while you spent your money on cruises and told Grandma I was too busy to visit more? Updated. Whoa, didn't expect this to blow up like Mentos and Diet Coke. Some of y'all in the comments saying, I'm cold for involving Grandma in this beef. Here's the thing, Grandma wasn't some innocent bystander. She called my ex-boyfriend exotic to his face and refused to learn how to pronounce his name correctly after 2 years together. Have you ever had to watch someone you love be disrespected by your own family? What would you have done differently? The next week was nuclear. My Instagram and Facebook blew up with relatives I barely knew, sending messages about how I was heartless, selfish, destroying the family. Cousins who hadn't spoken to me in years suddenly had strong opinions about my character. My aunt even posted a GoFundMe for Grandma's care that conveniently left out the part where I'd been bankrolling everything for years. Meanwhile, I started apartment hunting in Austin. My company had an office there, and I'd been wanting to transfer anyway. Within 2 weeks, I'd found a spot in South Congress, put in for the transfer, and started packing my IKEA furniture into U-Haul boxes. Mom showed up at my apartment the day before the movers came. She looked 10 years older than when I'd last seen her, dark circles under her eyes and her North Face jacket hanging loose on her frame. "Can we talk?" she asked when I opened the door, her eyes widening at the boxes stacked everywhere. I let her in, but didn't offer coffee. She stood awkwardly in my half-packed living room, looking at the empty spaces where photos used to be. "You're moving?" she asked, though it was obvious. "Austin?" I replied. "Transfer approved last week." She nodded slowly, then got to the point. "We need help with your grandmother. Dad had to cut his hours at work to be home with her. The apartment is too small. She's unhappy." I almost laughed. And we thought, maybe you could reconsider the nursing home payments, just until we figure something out. I looked at her, really looked at her. My mom, who'd taught me to stand up for myself against everyone except family. Who'd told me my whole life that family comes first, while simultaneously making me feel like I wasn't really part of that family. "No," I said simply. Her face crumpled. "Please, we can't do this, we're drowning." "I drowned for years," I replied, surprised by how steady my voice was. "Every time you excluded me, every time you made me feel less than for being different, I kept writing checks and showing up anyway, but I'm done now. She's your grandmother." Mom was crying now, mascara running down her cheeks like she was in some CW drama. "And she's your mother," I countered. "Figure it out." After she left, I sat on my bare mattress on the floor. I'd already sold the bed frame on Facebook Marketplace, and cried for an hour straight, tears soaking into my Patagonia fleece. Not because I regretted my decision, but because it had come to this. Because sometimes the only way to make people value you is to show them exactly what life looks like without you. The move to Austin was like hitting the refresh button on my life. New apartment with exposed brick walls and a balcony overlooking food trucks and hipsters on electric scooters. New coworkers who invited me to happy hours at local breweries where we drank craft IPAs and talked about anything except family drama. I even adopted a rescue pit bull named Bandit, who quickly became obsessed with chasing squirrels in Zilker Park. For 3 months, I didn't answer calls from my parents' numbers. I blocked the flying monkeys, those relatives suddenly concerned about family unity who never cared before. I focused on building a life that didn't revolve around being the responsible one, the checkbook, the disappointment. Then came the text from my brother. "Dad had a minor heart attack. He's okay, but thought you should know." I sat on my balcony, with a white claw debating whether to respond when another text came through, "Not asking you for anything, just info." I sent back a simple, "Thanks for letting me know," and tried to ignore the knot in my stomach. The old me would have been on the first flight home, checkbook open, apologies ready for things that weren't my fault. Instead, I took Bandit for an extra long walk along the river, letting the Texas sunset and the sound of paddleboarders drown out the voice in my head that still whispered about responsibility and guilt. A week later, my phone rang with an unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. "Hello? It's Grandma." I nearly dropped the phone. Her voice sounded smaller, frailer than I remembered. "How did you get this number?" I asked, my heart pounding like I'd just chugged a Red Bull. "Your brother," she replied. "Don't be mad at him." I bullied it out of him. That made me smile despite myself. Grandma had always been a force of nature, even in her 80s. "Are you calling to yell at me too?" I asked, bracing myself. "No." There was a long pause. "I'm calling to say you were right." Updated. Y'all, the comments have me in tears, both good and bad, some saying I'm the villain here, others saying I'm their hero. The truth is somewhere in between. Someone asked if I regret not trying harder with my family before going nuclear. The honest answer is sometimes yes, sometimes no. When's the last time you stood your ground even when it hurt? Was it worth it in the end? The conversation that followed was the most honest one we'd ever had. Grandma told me how she'd overheard my parents talking about money for years, how they'd planned vacations around when my check to the nursing home would clear, how they'd told her I was too busy with my weird friends to visit when really they'd given me the wrong dates. "I believed them," she said, her voice cracking. "I thought you'd abandoned me for your new life." "I would never," I whispered, tears streaming down my face. Bandit nudged my hand with his nose, sensing my distress. "I know that now," she replied. "Living with them, seeing how they operate up close. It's been educational." We talked for an hour. About her discomfort in their small apartment, about Dad's health scare, about how Mom had had to pick up extra shifts at Target to make ends meet, about how my brother was suddenly being asked to chip in for groceries and wasn't happy about it. "They're learning some hard lessons," Grandma said. "Me too." Before hanging up, she asked if I'd consider coming to visit her. Just her, not them. "I'd like to meet this dog I keep hearing snuffling in the background," she said, "and see this new life you've built." I promised to think about it, and I meant it. Not because I was ready to forgive and forget, but because I was starting to realize that cutting ties completely wasn't the answer either. The answer was boundaries, real ones, with consequences when they were crossed. 2 weeks later, I flew back for a day trip. I took Grandma to lunch at Olive Garden, her favorite, though she'd never admit it to her country club friends, where she demolished endless breadsticks while Bandit sat patiently under the table. "Your mom wants to know if you'll ever speak to them again," she said over her tour of Italy platter. I twirled pasta around my fork, considering. "I don't know. Maybe someday, but not like before." She nodded, understanding in her eyes. They're struggling, not just with money. Good, I said, then immediately felt guilty. I don't mean that I want them to suffer. I just needed them to see what they'd been doing. Mission accomplished, Grandma said dryly, breaking her last breadstick in half and sneaking a piece to Bandit. So what now? What now, indeed. That was 6 months ago. I'm still in Austin, still loving my new life with Bandit and friends who accept me fully. I talk to Grandma weekly on FaceTime. She finally learned how to use the iPad my brother got her for Christmas. My parents? We've exchanged a few texts, short, careful messages that skirt around the real issues but leave the door cracked open. I don't know if that door will ever fully open again, but I do know this. I'll never again be the ATM they withdraw from while making me feel like an embarrassment. Sometimes my mom sends photos of Grandma in their apartment, seated at their tiny kitchen table or watching TV in the living room that's now dominated by her medical equipment. The pictures always make me feel a complicated mix of emotions: sadness, vindication, guilt. Last week, I got an email from Golden Sunset Nursing Home. They have an opening and wanted to know if I was interested in re-enrolling my grandmother. I forwarded it to my parents with no message attached. The ball's in their court now. My brother tells me they've been taking financial planning classes at the community college. Mom's looking for a better job, and Dad's talking about downsizing to a smaller place that's more accessible for Grandma. These are all things they could have done years ago instead of relying on me to foot the bill while treating me like an afterthought. Will bridges be rebuilt? Maybe, but they'll be different bridges, stronger, with better boundaries, and real respect. Or maybe they won't be rebuilt at all. Either way, I'm finally okay with that, because sometimes the family you're born into isn't the family you end up with. And sometimes the most powerful word in your vocabulary isn't sorry or even I love you. Sometimes it's simply no.